Welcome everyone back to the channel, Jamie Waffles Footy. I'd like to say thank you very much if you're watching this right now, and if you could hit that free punch combo by liking, subscribing and commenting down below. So I'm going to get straight off into things. It's the player ratings for the 2023 to 2024 season. I'm going to do mainly the starting 11 and the impact substitutions, if you'd like to say it in that way. So starting off with David Raya, I think I would give him an 8 out of 10. I am going to do half, so you could do a 7.5 and 8.5 and so on. But David Raya, I would give him an 8. The pressure he had coming on to replace Ramsdale this season must have been massive for him. And it must have been a massive struggle coming in to a massively predominant player like Ramsdale, where he was a fan favourite, and there was a lot of uproar when he came in, David Raya, and I think his collection of crosses has helped us out tremendously this season. I think he's took us to that next level of goalkeepers. Don't get me wrong, Aaron Ramsdale is a great goalkeeper, but I think he's a top 6 keeper, Europa League, maybe playing in the Champions League keeper. But I don't think he's a keeper for challenging for the title. As we've seen, he switches off, and he just can't really be trusted, I don't think, that much. I know Raya's had a few glimpsy moments this season, but I trust him a lot more than I do Ramsdale. For instance, when Ramsdale came on, I think it was the Brentford game, and straight away he made a calamitous mistake, and it was only, Kai Havertz that scored in the last few minutes of the game to bring it back for us, and we won 2-1. But he just generally switches off in games, and I think that's a big error as a keeper, where he just, that lack of concentration, it's them small little margins that win and lose your games, unfortunately. So back onto David Raya, he's been absolutely exceptional for us. And I think an 8 rating is perfectly fine for him. Moving on to the right back, Ben White. I think Benny Blanco has been an unsung hero for us. Maybe the start of the season up to December, he wasn't perfect, he wasn't that great. But once he's gone to that Dubai trip, I think he's been absolutely exceptional. He's come back, he's flying up and down that wing, and he's just been absolutely unreal for us. His link-up play, that trio, where you've got Martin Odegaard, you've got Saka, and you've got Benny Blanco playing, like entwining and playing between the lines with each other. And it just works out so well for us. Defensively, he's very capable as well. It's not just like an Alexander-Arnold where he's just going forward and he's exceptional going forward. It's Ben White can back it up defensively as well, which I find really good. And he's just going to push on and push on. He's still, Ben White's probably 24, 25 years old, I think. He's been really good for us this season, I think. Onto the right centre-back position, which is William Saliba. I would give Saliba an 8.5 this season. I think him and Gabriel have been the best centre-back partnership in the league. And I think the numbers talk. We've got the most clean sheets in the league, so I think that talks definitely. But William Saliba has been absolutely exceptional. Rolls-Royce footballer, as we all know, as Arsenal fans. And coming forward, so I've noticed a bit more lately that he's playing a lot more forward now, whereas before he was a bit more predominantly back. Maybe Arteta's making him play that kind of John Stones role where he can come through as a centre back and start playing more forward. If you've noticed it as well, I for example the other day, not last game, the game before, where he was having a 1-on-1 with their keeper. So I think that speaks volumes, and he's so composed on the ball. Sometimes I think he is a bit too composed, and it kind of scares me, but he doesn't really make a mistake, and if he does, he's only 22 years old at the end of the day, so he's bound to make them little mistakes. But personally, I think, not just saying this being biased as an Arsenal fan, I think he is the best centre half in the league. And I know you can say Virgil van Dijk, but for me, watching Saliba week in and week out, he's been absolutely exceptional. Moving on to Gabriel on the left side, I think Gabriel has had a great season. Obviously, he had his head turned, apparently so. That's why he didn't play in the first 4 to 5 games, and you notice a difference about him there. He hasn't got that mistake in him like he did last season, where he switched off a couple of times last season. This season, he has been an absolute rock. So with every great partnership as centre-backs, you need your aggressor, which is our Gabriel, where he's going in, he's putting in them tackles, he's making himself known, he's a presence. And then you need that player who can just play football, the other centre-half who can just weave about, play that Rolls-Royce type of player. For example, you were with Manchester United, you had your Rio Ferdinand, you had your Vidic. Rio Ferdinand could play football, and Vidic was your aggressor. He was the one who got in, got stuck in, went through the back of them, did whatever he had to do to let them know they're in a football match. And I think that's Gabriel and Saliba. So that partnership's working out quite well. Gabriel, I would give an 8. So Saliba's an 8.5. I think he's been slightly better. Maybe at the start of the season, Gabriel was better. But I think predominantly towards the end of the season, Saliba has just been a little tiny bit above. Moving on to left back, which mainly it's a mix between Kiwior, Zinni, and Tomiyasu. But I'll start off with Kiwior because I think he played more games because the other two were injured. So Kiwior, when he had to come in, he did a really, really good job. I think he got through a hard period, and I'd give him a standard a 7. I'd give him a 7 because he did very well when he came in. He's not his natural position, which obviously it's the left centre back is his natural position. So yeah, I'd give him a 7. I'll move on to Zinchenko and Tomiyasu after I've done the main starting 11. So defensive midfield, we've got Declan Rice. Declan Rice, to me, has been our player of the season. I would definitely give him a 9 out of 10. If we'd won the league, I would have put 9.5 or a 10. But he's took us to that next level. The things that surprised me with him is how he comes in and takes the ball off people, and he's 30 metres away by the time you've even realised. And he just progresses up the pitch. He gets the team up the pitch, and he's a leader. You can see that he's a leader on the pitch, and it just says it all. I think he's got 8 goals and 6 assists this season. So I think he's been absolutely unreal for us. The way you know he's been good is that people don't talk or comment about how much he cost. So, for example, with Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo, they talk about £100 million, or you've got your Antonys where they're like, he's £80 million. Look how much you paid for him. I haven't heard a whisper of how much Declan Rice cost, and that just speaks volumes. Personally, absolutely speaks volumes. The other centre midfield partnership, so that's Declan Rice, CDM, or you could say he played the 8 position, either or either. CDM, Jorginho, I think he played majority of our games this season, more than obviously Thomas Partey because he come in towards the end of the season. Jorginho, I would give a 7.5. I think he did at one part of the season he did very, very well for us, and I think he definitely deserved that contract extension. He came in. Thomas Partey was injured 90% of the season, so we needed someone to fill that role, and I think he filled the role very, very well. There were some games where he looked a bit sluggish and a bit slow, overplaying perhaps. Jorginho is a one game every week or two kind of player. You can't play him every 3 days, and I think that's what we found out the problem was in the end. But yeah, a solid 7.5 I'd give Jorginho. Moving on to the 10, I don't think Odegaard really plays the 10 anymore. I think it's 2 8s we play with the Declan Rice, and the Odegaard is the 8, so then we play with a 6. But Martin Odegaard, I think, has had an exceptional season as well. I would give him an 8.5. I think what I found this season, he drops more back and collects the ball, and he controls the game a lot more than he did last season. Last season, he more just sat in that pocket, just between Saka and Gabriel Jesus last season. He sat in that pocket and had the interplay there. But this season, he's come in a lot more deeper, as a 6 to collect the ball and progress up the pitch. And his turns, he's just so elegant. And I don't know about you, but watching a left-footed player who's so elegant is just so good on the eye. I don't know what it is. Left-footed players, when they play them cutting-edge passes, it just looks so much better than a right-footed player playing on. But yeah, Martin Odegaard, I would give an 8.5, and I think he's been absolutely exceptional this season as well. Onto the right wing, Bukayo Saka. I would give Bukayo Saka an 8.5 as well, the same as Odegaard. And I think Saka has been absolutely unreal this season. We need to protect him at all costs as Arsenal fans, because for some reason in the media, they're giving him this... They just don't rate him, and I don't quite understand why. When they put him in the brackets of, like, you've got your Fodens, you've got your Cole Palmers, he's definitely in that bracket. He's had 32 goal contributions this season, and you've seen in that last game against Everton where he weren't in the team, and you notice that we didn't have that impact. We didn't have that where he'd cut in and then he'd have a shot at goal. We didn't have that. And I think that us as Arsenal fans, we need to protect him. We need to defend him a bit more, because they say all about all this dive, and he's the most foul player in the league, and he's Arsenal through and through. He's one of our boys. He's one of our own. He's our star boy. So I love Bukayo Saka. I absolutely love him. He's probably is my favourite player, but that changes every single week. To be honest with you, that's how much I love this club. One week it's Declan Rice. The next week it's Bukayo Saka. Last week it was Benny Blanco. It just chops and changes, because I'm going to be honest, Mikel Arteta's made me fall back in love with this club. And it might sound like, oh no, you didn't love the club before. Well, of course I did, but I was just watching them, and it was kind of like emotionless, where I weren't really fully involved, and now I'm fully invested. So Bukayo Saka, I would give him an 8.5. Moving on to the left wing, I would give Gabriel Martinelli... I think I'm being generous here, but I'll give him a 7. It could be a 6.5. He hasn't had the best season, and I think part of that comes down to the left back position and Granit Xhaka not being in that role no more, because Declan Rice, he comes a lot more back, he drifts a lot more. He's not predominantly just on the left hand side like Xhaka did. So on the right hand side, you've got Odegaard, Saka and Ben White having that link up play. We don't have that on the left hand side, and I think that's where Martinelli found a problem. He doesn't have that explosiveness where Zinchenko, when Zinchenko's in the side, he comes into the middle, so Martinelli can just sprint out wide. He's got that width, and he can just get at his players. Whereas when Kiwior's playing, he's overlapping, so he's drawn that defender already towards Martinelli out, so he doesn't have the width to come in and use that burst of pace that he's got. So I'm going to give him a 7. Moving on to Kai Havertz, I will give Kai Havertz an 8 this season. I am extremely, extremely surprised with how well Kai Havertz has played this season. I don't know about you guys, but my expectations at the start of the season, I didn't know what to expect with him. After seeing him at Chelsea, I didn't think he was... I didn't see why Mikel Arteta bought him. And now obviously we can see the reason why. For the first couple of months, you could kind of see a little bit of a glimmer. You could see that he picked up the ball, he progressed there. He was here, there and everywhere. He was getting stuck in. But we wanted more than that from a player that cost £65 million. And he's definitely delivered towards the end of the season. From 2024, from January, he's getting in on the goals, he's getting assists, he's here, there and everywhere. He's right in the defender's face. And it's what I love as a striker to do. Personally, I love a striker to be up there, jumping up for it, give him an elbow. It might be a bit old school, but he's got that. I don't know how you feel, but I'll compare him to a kind of like a Berbatov. So where he looks lazy on the pitch, but he isn't. He's everywhere, and he's winning. The thing is, he wins so many tackles. He just gets stuck in. I just love it. I absolutely love it, and I think he's having a great season. And hopefully, he can push on and that form that he had in the second half of the season. Hopefully, he can take that into next season. Moving on to the substitutions, I'm just going to give a Ramsdale a standard 6. When he came in, he weren't great, but it's hard to come in the way he did, where Raya ultimately has took his position. So he's coming in, and he knows that the next week afterwards, Raya's going to have his place back. So I can't really you can't really comment on that. Zinchenko, I think Zinny, he reminds me of us last season, where last season we struggled in some games because we were a bit over the top. We weren't controlling the game, and I think Zinny reminded me of that our team last season, and I think that's a bit why the crowd's got on his back. He doesn't remind us of the good things of last season. He reminds us of the bad things. Don't get me wrong, I still love Zinchenko as a player, and I still want him to stay, but I think he is very risky in some games. But I think he's worth having in some games when it's a low block. So Zinny, I would give a 6.5. Moving on to centre midfield, Thomas Partey. Thomas Partey, towards the end of the season, he did come in and he did have a straight up impact. He came in and then we looked a lot better in that central midfield area. Once he played a few games and got a few games under his belt, you could see we were getting that old Thomas Partey back. But I don't think he was up to full match sharpness, so he did look a bit slack in a couple of the games. But I would give Thomas Partey a 7 for when he's come in. Even though he didn't play 90% of the season, he did elevate us towards the back end of the season. And I think personally getting rid of him and bringing in a player of his calibre will help us win the league next season. Moving on to Leonardo Trossard. Leo has been absolutely unreal. I know I've put Martinelli as the starter as the left wing, where towards the end of the season it was more Trossard, but that signing, that's one of our best January signings we've ever had. Trossard, it's hard to explain how good he's been for us. He's a big game player. He's always coming in and scoring them big goals, even when it's off the bench. He's had such an impact, and he's just been so good for us. And fair play to him. Like, even when he has come off the bench, that Bayern Munich game came on, got us a goal. He might have a 6 out of 10 performance, but then he'll bag a goal and he'll win you the game. And that's the best thing about Trossard. He might have them off games, but he always scores. He's just always there at the right time, and he's a quality finisher. I would say he's our best finisher in the squad. 100%, I would say he's our best finisher in the squad. Moving on to Gabriel Jesus. Gabby, he's been injured majority of the season. I don't think even when he's come into the squad he's been very good. I think he's been carrying a knee injury. Always his Achilles. You can tell he's had a knock, because last season when he first came into the squad he was a game changer. He was our best player. He was undoubtedly our best player when he came in last season, and he just hasn't got that sharpness, that get at him kind of take a player on, and he had that little bit of magic where you feel like he could do something. And this season, I don't think he's got that magic anymore. I wouldn't move him on. I'd use him as to swap when a new striker comes in, or potentially on that right hand side, because Saka needs rest. Saka 100% needs rest. We can't play him every 3 days for the whole season, because he's going to burn out. Jack Wilshere all over again. He'll end up picking up knocks and it will burn him out, and he'll retire at 28, 29 years old. So I think Jesus is a good backup to Saka on that right-hand side. Whether he wants to stay as a backup is yet to be decided, but I think he'll be good on that right-hand side. For every other player, I'm just going to give a standard 6 with like Fabio Vieira. You've got... Who else we got? Fabio Vieira, Reece Nelson, Eddie Nketiah. I think they're all players that could potentially be moved on, but they're all just a standard 6, I think, personally. Just to touch on as well, so this is obviously a player rating, but my review of the season, it's massive progression. If you don't believe in this team now, when are you going to believe? Because Arteta has done an absolutely exceptional job, and next season will be our season, lads. Believe and have the faith, because we have come so far as a football club. If we didn't take 4 points off Man City this season, they would have ended up finishing with 95 points. They went undefeated from December. We won 16 out of 18 games in 2024. What more can we do as a club? It's only that December period we lost to Fulham, West Ham. Them games in between there is what's actually cost us at the end of the season. So hopefully next season we can carry on this form from 2024 onwards to the 2025 season. But I'm extremely proud of these boys. Like I've said on my TikTok, they're a young bunch of lads at the end of the day, and they're still learning. You think like Bukayo Saka's 22 years old, Saliba's 22 years old, Declan Rice is 24, 25. These players are still young lads. They're up against, so you go to the Emirates, 60,000 people. But then there's millions and millions and millions of people across the world watching them. It's big pressure, and they've stood up to that pressure this season. The season before we folded. We did bottle it the season before. There's no denying it. But this season we did not bottle it. We've gone toe to toe with, in my opinion, the best Premier League team ever. Man City 4-peating. They're the best team. Whether they've had 115 points, they're the best Premier League team ever. 100%. This team is. If we didn't take them points off them, they would have finished with 95 points. So whether you say, oh yeah, the 91 points, it's not their best season. If we didn't go there and take them points off them, they would have finished with 95 points. Look at this season, the top 6. We took 4 points off. Took 4 points off Chelsea. Took 4 points off Tottenham. 4 points off Man City. 4 points off Liverpool, and we took 6 points off United. Is that not improvement? I remember the days when we were going to Man United losing 8-2, getting smashed by Man City 5-1, getting smashed by Chelsea. I used to hate going to their grounds, going to Anfield knowing that we're going to get absolutely smashed. Now, we're not that team no more. We dig our heels in and we show them. Whereas before, we just got walked all over. They just come along, push us along, say, nah, we're the big boys now. They can't come to our ground and do that. So it's a massive progression, and I'm extremely proud of the boys, like I've just said, and I think everyone should be. You can all have your own opinions about silverware, but the silverware will come. Trust me. Trust in these boys and trust in this manager. The silverware will come. Well, I think I'm going to end the episode there. Thank you very much if you have watched all the way to the end. And like I said at the start, hit a 3-punch combo by liking, subscribing, and commenting down below. If you put some comments and some questions down below, I will answer them in the next episode. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.